By the end of Season 0, I finished my rank journey at Eternity 31 and made the vast majority of my climb solo. I was also a Grandmaster Overwatch player, so I feel fairly qualified to talk about how you should improve your tank ability. I am writing this script just before the new season comes out, but from what I've seen, the balance changes are very minimal. Captain America is getting a very small buff and so is Venom. Strange is also getting a minor nerf, but from what I can tell, the state of the game will be almost exactly the same as it is in Season 0. So the meta shouldn't change too much. And what I'm going to teach will range from basic positioning tips to character specific ability usage. So listen to what I have to say. If you are stuck in the trenches of lower ranks like many people are in Season 1, I can assure you there's something in this video which can help you. Before we start, I do stream every single day on Twitch, so if you want to watch some high rank gameplay or want VOD reviews, then drop by. I also do 10 push-ups per follower and 30 per sub, so it'll be worth your time, trust me. Now, the first thing when climbing as tank is playing the most optimal one. Right now, Strange, Magneto, and Hulk are some of the best tanks to go. But before you just lock one of them, you need to think about why you're picking them. Hulk works extremely well with his team up with Iron Man and Strange, but alone he isn't quite as good. Hulk, just like Venom, is a dive character which gets in and out of fights relatively quickly, rather than just holding the front line. This means you have to consider who on your team can potentially dive with you. If you have a Panther, Magic, or Psylocke, then playing a dive tank becomes infinitely more valuable, as you can soak damage deep in their team while your DPS secure kills. Also, when going for dives like this, it's extremely important to communicate them, since dive characters alone don't tend to do enough damage to kill anything. I'm sure you've seen the clips of Panther players dashing through the team 300 times but killing absolutely no one. And this is because alone he's an absolute tickle monster, so he needs a team to support him to kill a coordinated group. Right now with Venom being really weak, Hulk being banned almost every single time you're in Diamond and above, and Panther getting nerfed, the meta should stay where it is. And right now shield tanks like Strange and Magneto dominate. But which one should you pick? Well, they each have their ups and downs. Strange's kit is just good overall, with decent damage, a shield you can use whenever, a portal to get you back into the fight in overtime, and a movement ability. This makes him an amazing pick when synergizing with his team, as he can just take and give space on the fly. I do think he's best played when having another tank to soak damage, because him and his shield get melted when fighting into any high damage composition or two coordinated enemy tanks. And this is when Magneto comes in. His shield's on a 3-second cooldown and has a resource meter, which honestly I didn't even notice for the longest time. But the big thing is that his shield has infinite HP. This means that his ability to solo tank is amazing, and he's my absolute go-to when we're running 3 DPS or 3 healers. His bubble also synergizes really well with the solo tank situation, because you can use it to protect dive or brawl characters when they engage to secure easy picks. I would therefore recommend you play Strange with the second tank and solo tank on Magneto, but in an ideal situation you just play both together. Now when it comes to playing Strange, especially in lower ranks, absolutely abuse his E. I know it got nerfed, but on max charge it still does 130 damage, so you can basically insta-kill any healer with a max charge E, primary fire and melee combo. You want to charge your E on tanks because they're easy to farm, try space out a healer or squishy and then do your combo for free kills. Because remember, as any tank you want to focus the enemy squishies while you deny and take space. Simply shooting into enemy tanks can keep them at bay, but it doesn't help you secure any picks which are needed to win fights. Look for space between the tanks and try to get shots in, because even getting a healer low can force abilities out, which sets your team up for kills. And for whatever reason, I see a lot of lower ranked players simply not using their E when they have the opportunity to secure picks, so please be aware of it. There's no point of charging it to max if you know you're not in a position to secure a kill or dispel it, because you're just going to end up anti-healing yourself. Be aware of the E charge and use it on squishies. One thing I see a lot of low rank players also do is fly up in the air when Magneto ults, which is actually a terrible play. Don't get me wrong, it can work, but unless you block it the second he throws it, he can just throw it under you or around you. It can work, but seriously think about how you're going to use your fly, because pursuing flying characters leaves your entire team open while you're going after one person. Now onto the shield. Strange's shield is one of his best features, but do try to save it. Just standing in a choke and full holding your shield without any reason is a throw. You want to use cover and your body most of the time to take space, and use the shield as a means to take open space or block enemy abilities. Be fairly frugal with the shield, because there will be times where you need it but you've wasted it. Now his portal's one of those things that I see people mess up the most. Yes, you can use it to counter portal, block spawn doors and other crazy things. Honestly, I've won way more games by simply using it to get my team back into a fight that's just about winnable. Also, going for an instant portal behind when you're pushing a point is not a great idea. It's extremely predictable and you'll end up doing it blind, so the enemy knows exactly where you're coming from, yet you have no idea where all of them are. I always recommend taking a fight without it unless you have a solid plan on what you're doing. Portaling behind with another penny constantly getting picks with their traps in a choke, for example, is a smart idea. But going in completely raw with no plan is just way too risky considering there's a 3-minute cooldown. Also, if you portal behind and a teammate gets picked, then the push is just dead. They'll respawn really far from you, so your team will just be split. And this wastes loads of time, so seriously don't do it without reason. And now with the ultimate, just try to get one. You don't need a 6-man ultimate to win a fight. Getting an ult onto a healer and killing them is enough to secure a win. Now, when playing Magneto, you fill a very similar role to Strange, but the tempo is quite different. The first thing you want to do is keep an eye on your shield's recharge meter. This lets you know whether your next shield will last a long time or will barely be on the screen for a second. Knowing how much you can block dictates where you should play and what abilities you can deny. Now your next and arguably most important ability is the bubble. You can use this on yourself or a teammate, and I strongly recommend that you only use it on yourself as a last resort. The bubble is most effective when used on a squishy like Wolverine or Iron Fist who can get value by being balls deep in the enemy team. The bubble itself can take 300 damage and lasts 2.5 seconds, so it makes a massive difference to a DPS diving the enemy. Never use it as a first resort on yourself and try to communicate when you're using it on your team. If you use the bubble in overtime defensively to save a Luna who almost has ultimate, then voila, you've just won a team fight with one ability. So think before you use it. His primary fire is also very similar to Strange's since it's used to poke, so try to find gaps in the enemy frontline to pressure supports. Otherwise, the main final thing is the ultimate. His ultimate eats all damage in a massive area, which then charges the damage on the ball he throws. This means that the best way to use it is defensively. You can use it easily to deny other ultimates and protect your team. Holding it for the enemy Star-Lord ult or Punisher ult is a very smart way of charging it up while keeping your team safe. Just be careful, because when it gets to 100, it does pop and you lose your ultimate.
Judge, jury, executioner!
Got him. So that was going to be the end of my little Magneto segment, but I realized that you need to counter Cloak ult with Magneto ult. I've been playing Season 1 and this is a must. Cloak is so unbelievably OP. You need to hold your ultimate as Magneto if they have a cloak and use it on her while she's casting it. She has 4 little dashes while she's casting it, which means that she's stationary once every 2 seconds. And in that window, charge it up, make sure it has enough damage on it, and kill her. If you do this and your cloak doesn't die too, then you will win in team fights. If their Magneto is going for an ultimate on your cloak, also be sure to bubble her too. These are essential in Season 1, I've come to realize. Anyway, back onto the video. Penny's also a solid tank in lower ranks, but lacks when it comes to pushing power and sustainability. If you're in any sort of rank, you can use her effectively to get picks with her traps and deny space. The main issue is that her viability relies heavily on what map you're playing. She's very good on defense on Symbiotic Surface and Shinshibuya First Point. She's decent on Spider Islands and some other domination maps, but overall she's not the best. Especially when attacking, she lacks pushing potential and her nest gets destroyed easily in high ranks. On certain maps, on defense, feel free to play her, but just know it's not optimal. Her kit's also very simple too. Try place her nest and cover because it gives you passive regen and a speed boost. If it's being attacked or if you need to back up, then simply destroy it yourself to get a lower cooldown or no cooldown at all. I've genuinely seen people in Diamond and almost GM who didn't know that Penny's nest was self-destroyable. Keep moving it around because the more uptime it has, the better. The best way to get value as Penny though is to set traps. If you use her right click at any surface and place mines in the web, they become invisible, meaning that you can get picks super easily and stagger the enemy team's push. Seriously do this whenever you can because it works even up to Grandmaster lobbies. Her right click web is also a stun, and yes, it's on a 3-second cooldown. I have no idea what they were smoking in the dev room when they came up with this, but this stun is so annoying to deal with. You can cancel ultimates with it and almost perma-stun enemy tanks like Groot who don't have any way to block it directly. And the final thing as Penny is to swap if it's not working, because again she's not very good on most maps. Now I'm not going to cover every tank in the game, otherwise this video is going to be about 10 hours long, plus I simply just don't play them all. But learn what they all do. If you're playing against a Groot and didn't know that his walls can hit you when you stand near them, then you're taking way more damage and making your support's lives way harder. If you're a newer player and didn't know that Thor's F ability does tons of damage, then you'll feed and die to him. You need to understand what characters do in order to counterplay them, regardless of whether you want to play those characters themselves. Learn who counters who and learn who synergizes with who. Magneto's bubble, for example, is a great way to deny a Wolverine grab, meanwhile Groot's terrible into Wolverine. Captain America is amazing at making space but not dealing damage, so if you play him, make sure you have a team comp which can capitalize on the space that you make. It's these little things which make all the difference. Now, onto the most important part of playing tank. This applies to every tank and it's to not die. Once you die, your team simply crumbles unless you've got several picks already, and the way to not die is smart positioning. During VOD reviews, I've seen lower rank players move into suboptimal positions or break line of sight with their team for way too long. Look at Shinshibuya. If you're pushing main, where should you go? The answer is forward or to the left. Moving into this right side funnel requires your team to push into it too if they want line of sight on you. It also gives the enemy team jurisdiction over a large portion of the map, so your team is more vulnerable than ever. It's tiny choices like these which can sway entire fights depending on how well the enemy team capitalizes on the space that you give them. You seriously need to take wider angles to ensure that your supports can see you and have enough space to breathe. Also, when I talked about playing around cover, I really meant it. As any tank, your best friend is the environment. Don't stand in the open for too long unless you have the resources to do so, otherwise you'll get absolutely melted. Another easy way to feed is by tunnel visioning the enemy. By pushing too deep into the enemy team or ignoring the main fight for too long, you leave your team open to just die. And the last way to feed and die is by your pathing. By chasing an enemy forward rather than back, you're leaving yourself open to way more sightlines which the enemy hold. Actively think at all times about where your team is, what space the enemy holds, and honestly play it safe. Unless you're going for a Hail Mary play last second, play situation safe, because again, as a tank, if you're dead, your team crumbles. And when you're playing tank, you need to speak. You are the front line. You are making space and you lead the team, so being silent makes life way harder for everyone. Shot calling genuinely makes a world of a difference. Doing small things like calling a dry push, for example, is how you win a game. And if you don't know what this is, it's where you and your team commit to an early fight with no ultimate, so the enemies burn theirs and you can use yours in the next fight. If they've burned bot support ult for nothing and you come back with 6 ultimates, you will win the game. Coordinating pushes and portals and other tiny little things is crucial as a tank player and will win you more games. Now, my final tip that I give to absolutely everyone, and I've said in every video so far, is to watch good players play. Watch a live stream of someone you like and you'll absorb positioning and communication skills. This is by far the best way to learn, so trust me, give it a go. Anyway, that's enough yap from me. Go follow the Twitch for some push-ups, drop a like, drop a comment for the algorithm, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.